Ultros is the other multi-armed recurring comic relief boss of the Final Fantasy franchise, the one who doesn't collect swords and doesn't really care about battling on bridges. While he is not as famous or recurring as some other characters, Ultros has repeatedly popped up to trouble players time and time again, and usually brings Typhon along for the ride when he does. Ultros' name is a mistranslation of the Japanese Orthros. Various games in the 2000s went back and forth between calling him Ultros or Orthros, but his English name is now consistently given as Ultros, likely due to the nostalgia of it being his original translated name. Typhon, on the other hand, was originally known as Chupon in Final Fantasy VI, but has universally been Typhon ever since. Orthros is the name of a two-headed dog in Greek mythology, and was the brother of Cerberus and child of Echidna and Typhon. Orthros was owned by the giant Geryon, and was killed by Heracles when he was tasked to retrieve Geryon's girdle as one of his 12 labors. Typhon was a being with a humanoid body and 100 serpentine heads, and was the child of Gaia and Tartarus, the primordial personifications of the earth and the underworld. Typhon was regarded as the father of many famous monsters, and attempted to overthrow Zeus but was defeated and cast down. Some stories say he was imprisoned in the underworld, others say he was buried beneath Mount Etna, a volcano in Italy. While there are no immediate parallels between the Final Fantasy creatures and the beings of Greek myth, there is some connective tissue in Final Fantasy VI. The party encounters Ultros on the Lethe River. In Greek mythology, the Lethe was one of the 5 rivers that fed into the underworld. There was also a real river named the Lethe in what is modern Cadiz, Spain, but in ancient times was known as Gadara. Some stories claim that Gadara was founded by Heracles during his journey to kill Geryon, or that Gadara was where Geryon lived. In Final Fantasy VI, the Lethe River empties into the ocean near the port city of Nicaea, which may be named for Nikaea, an ancient Greek city. When taken on its own as a name for a creature that guards the Lethe River, Orthros is a perfectly fitting name for such a beast. But the reason why that beast is a talking octopus is still unclear. Aside from Greek mythos, Orthros is the name of a jumping spider found in Southeast Asia, but this is only a tangential connection to the octopus Ultros and likely a coincidence. Typhon's name fits as a protective partner to Ultros, and his fire associations could come from Mount Etna, but his overall design is nothing like the Typhon of Greek mythology. An apocryphal story claims that during development of Final Fantasy VI, a programmer told Hironobu Sakaguchi that the purple octopus monster they had designed reminded him of a stuffed octopus toy he had as a child, that was named Orthros, and Sakaguchi named the character after the toy. However, it must be emphasized that this information is unsubstantiated. No original source for the story could be found during the production of this video, and most postings of it online have copied it from somewhere else. Some versions of the story also claim that the reason for Ultros' design is that an octopus was the playable character in one of Square's first video games, but this is verifiably false. The story also provides no context whatsoever for the design inspirations for Typhon. In the end, just as in Final Fantasy VI itself, the story of how Ultros and Typhon came about is a mystery. The color of Ultros varies, sometimes being given more as a pink shade, but usually he is a deep purple. Unusually, he only has 7 tentacles. His sprites in the 2D games have his tentacles intertwined, making it difficult to untangle how many there are, but in his 3D appearances he clearly has 7. He often has spots in his 2D appearances, and curved white markings in 3D appearances. Ultros has a row of large, pointed fangs, but his lower mouth is virtually never visible, and in some designs his tentacles appear to come out of his mouth. Typhon is an amorphous bright pink creature with a massive mouth and a second, smaller face on its rear end. Its mouth is ringed with yellow fangs, and its secondary head may be colored yellow as well, depending on the incarnation. It has white and yellow markings along its body, 2 black eyes, and 2 short, clawed hands. Its ears are long and pointed, and it has tufts of fur growing out of them. In some games, Typhon's ears are more like horns, while in other games it has horns growing from the back of its head and its ears are separate. Yet other games depict these horns on the back of its head as mechanical pipes emitting smoke and fire. While Typhon is usually closely associated with Ultros, on occasion it has appeared on its own as a summon. In these cases, it is associated with the elements of fire and wind. Ultros' recurring attacks are Tentacle and Ink, sometimes with either being given the prefix Octopus. Tentacle, of course, depicts Ultros using his tentacles to strike enemies for physical damage, often multiple times. Ink damages its target and inflicts blind. Depending on the game, Ultros may be able to use different kinds of elemental magic and other status ailment attacks, and tends to pick up some sort of water or ice elemental offensive attack. Typhon's signature attacks are Snort and Fireball. Snort has Typhon release a massive blast of air from its mouth, which is where its wind affinity comes from. Snort's effects vary depending on the game's battle system, but infamously it can remove a character from battle entirely. Other games merely have it inflict instant death or deal heavy damage. Fireball is simply a fire elemental attack that hits multiple targets. Typhon is also able to fly, which Ultros uses to get around easier. Unlike entities like Gilgamesh and Shinru, Ultros is usually not implied to be the same character in every game, but he does retain some core traits. He is a lecher and enjoys ogling women, but is disgusted by men and derisively refers to them as muscleheads. This may be inspired by the Greek origins of Orthros, where he was killed by Heracles. Ultros speaks in a foppish, camp manner, and enjoys cracking jokes and taunting the party during battle. Many pieces of dialogue from Final Fantasy VI are retained in Ultros' other appearances, such as referring to himself as Uncle Ulti, and rhetorically asking if he's being annoying or if an attack of his was cheap, and then sarcastically apologizing for it. Ultros is a coward, screaming in protest when attacked and fleeing from battle if the tide turns against him. He prefers to rely on Typhon to fight for him, referring to him as Mr. Typhon and calling him in when he's had his fill of fighting alone. As Ultros himself says, Typhon is tremendously powerful, far more than Ultros. Typhon is unintelligible, speaking only in growls and roars that are articulated by the phrase Thunga. Though they often appear together and Ultros acts familiar with him, the two are not really friends. In 13.2, Ultros' battle dialogue makes it clear that Typhon is merely his hired muscle, and in Moebius' Final Fantasy, Typhon is revealed to be annoyed by Ultros' talkative manner. Ultros has two pieces of music associated with him. The first is Grand Finale, played during the battle with Ultros at the opera in Final Fantasy VI. This is the only time the music is used in the game, making it a unique boss theme specifically for Ultros, but his appearances in other games use it sparsely, and he more often uses the original Final Fantasy VI boss theme. The other piece of note is Johnny C. Bad, a piece used in various areas of the game with a festive atmosphere, including the Colosseum. The Japanese composer Kenichi Miyamada began his career doing remixes of video game music under the name Hyodane. One of them is Ultros Boogie, a remix of Johnny C. Bad with lyrics that endlessly compliment Ultros. For its popularity in the fandom, Johnny C. Bad, or rather Ultros Boogie, could be considered Ultros' unofficial theme music. In the Game Boy Advance and subsequent versions of Final Fantasy I, Ultros and Typhon appear in Whisperwind Cove, a new optional dungeon unlocked by defeating Tiamat. Ultros is known as Orthros in this title, and he and Typhon are two of four bosses from Final Fantasy VI that appear in the dungeon. The other two are the Phantom Train and Death Gaze. Typhon appears on the 10th floor and Orthros on the 20th, and both must be defeated to progress past their floors. Orthros' special attack is Ink, which can blind the entire party. Typhon is considerably more dangerous due to Snort, which in this title inflicts instant death. Orthros drops the Rune Staff, the most powerful staff in the game, and Typhon drops the Genji Helm, a powerful helmet. Final Fantasy IV The After Years has several bosses from past titles appear in the final dungeon, the Depths of the True Moon. The original Wii version of the game referred to the boss as Ultros, but the PSP port with Final Fantasy IV renamed him Orthros. Ultros is one of four bosses to appear from Final Fantasy VI, the others being Death Gaze, the Phantom Train, and Ultima Weapon. Ultros will open the battle by fawning over the cute females in the party, and insults the males when they attack him. Ultros' attack patterns are based on his third encounter in Final Fantasy VI. His initial attacks include his signature tentacle, and he counters attacks with Constrict. When his HP falls below a certain point, He will begin to counter magic attacks with his own magic, and he gains more powerful attacks including Deluge and Maelstrom, which reduces the party's HP to single digits. His other attacks include Earthquake, Freezing Mist, and Bad Breath. When defeated, he drops the Kitchen Knife, a holdover from the original game. It is the ultimate throwing weapon, able to easily deal maximum damage to its target. Final Fantasy VI is Ultros and Typhon's debut appearance. Ultros attacks the returners as they raft down the Leth River to Nosh. He feigns defeat but grabs Terra with his tentacles, prompting Sabin to leap into the river to confront him. Ultros knocks Sabin away and he is washed down a fork in the river away from the others. Ultros' attack patterns give the battle a pseudo-timed element. He will use Tentacle in the pattern of Terra, Sabin, a group-hitting Tentacle with a follow-up attack, and then finally Tentacle on Banon. Unless Banon is defending or in the back row, Tentacle can easily KO him, causing a game over. Ultros reappears at the Opera House as the party makes plans to sneak Celes aboard Setz's airship disguised as the opera star Maria. Ultros decides to sabotage the party's plans by sneaking into the rafters and dropping a massive weight on Celes during the opera's climax, disrupting the show before Setzer arrives. The party has 5 minutes to fight their way through rats to reach Ultros before he manages to push the weight off. If they fail, the opera is ended and the player must start over from the start of the climax. When the party reaches Ultros, their struggle causes them to fall onto the stage and incapacitate the male leads of the opera, and Locke improvises himself as the hero to save Celes. The party then fights Ultros on the stage to chase him off. Ultros will move about the stage in this battle, his position affecting his attack pattern, which includes Confuse Level 3, Acid Rain, Imp Song, Megavolt, and of course, Tentacle. While Ultros has lower HP than before, he can be a deceptively durable opponent. Each position he moves to on the stage has its own HP total that is retained each time Ultros moves back to that same position. So while he could easily be killed if the party is quick, his ability to move around extends the battle. Ultros next appears in the Esper Caves near Thamasa, ambushing the party with intent to steal effigies of the Warring Triad in the cave. During the battle, Relm arrives and sketches Ultros, creating a simulacrum of him that strikes him with his own tentacle. Ultros is horrified to see himself and flees. This battle is Ultros at his most dangerous and confusing. His movements are a clue to his attack patterns, using a counter that increases every time he moves forward and decreases as he is attacked and pushed back. When the counter grows high enough, Ultros can use Aqua Breath or Magnitude 8 on his next turn, and then the counter resets. If he is attacked by the magic command 4 times, he will undergo a transformation, and from then on counter any form of fire, ice, or lightning damage with the tier 3 spell of that element. Fortunately, once his HP drops low enough, the cutscene with Relm will trigger and sketching Ultros instantly ends the battle. The party's final battle with Ultros occurs during the flight to the floating continent and the battle with the Imperial Air Force. Ultros flies in with Typhon and attacks alone at first, but calls Typhon in when he takes enough damage. At this point, defeating Ultros is secondary. When Typhon is defeated, he uses Snort on the party, blowing them off the airship and into a battle with the command ship of the Imperial Air Force. In the world of Ruin, Ultros becomes the receptionist at Dragon's Neck Coliseum due to being in deep debt to the builder of the Coliseum. Ultros is indignant at his fate and warns the party against betting cheap items or Typhon will discipline them. If the player bets a common item, Typhon will be their opponent putting up an elixir, and he will typically use Snort to end the battle immediately without costing the player their wager. Ultros may have some sort of connection to Jador. A painting of him is displayed in Ozer's mansion, and is replaced by a portrait of Emperor Gestal in the World of Ruin. An unused sprite of Ultros exists in the auction house on stage with the other items for bid, but it is not clear how it would have been used. He also expresses something of an interest in Siegfried, a mysterious wandering swordsman that appears sporadically throughout the game, but this isn't elaborated upon. Ultros doesn't appear in the world of Final Fantasy VII, but Typhon does. Typhon is a summon found in the ancient forest, and attacks with disintegration, dealing quad elemental fire, ice, lightning, and earth elemental damage to all enemies. He costs 160 MP to summon, making him one of the most expensive summons in the game, but he is also one of the most powerful, only outdone by Alexander, Bahamut Zero, and Knights of the Round. Ultros appears in Final Fantasy XII as a Flan-type enemy called Ultros, and is a rank 5 elite mark available after the party acquires the Dawn Shard. Ultros attacked a thief in Rabanastre and escaped into the Garam Scythe waterway with their stolen goods. The petitioner for the hunt is the injured thief, who asks the party to defeat Ultros and reclaim the goods for their rightful owner. As an allusion to Ultros' lecherous ways, Ultros will only appear if the active party consists of Ash, Fran, and Penelo. As a matter of convenience, guest characters are ignored for this check. Ultros' main damaging attack is Thundaga, and it otherwise uses a variety of status ailment attacks. As a Flan, it resists physical attacks and is best dispatched with magic. Final Fantasy XII is unusual in depicting Ultros as a Flan. To cement the connection to the Final Fantasy VI octopus, the bill for the Ultros hunt shows it striking a pose reminiscent of the original sprite. Final Fantasy XIII-2 is Ultros' first appearance in 3D as an octopus, and he brings Typhon with him this time. The two can be fought in the Colosseum as DLC enemies. Ultros initially fights alone, but calls Typhon in at half HP. Ultros cannot be defeated at this point, and if his HP falls to 1, Typhon will heal him. The player must focus on bringing down Typhon to defeat both of them. When Typhon's HP hits 0, Ultros will try to run, and the player must complete a QuickTime event with Noel and Sarah to pin him down and finish him off. Ultros can attack with his tentacles as well as Octopus Ink and Freezing Breath, and can cast buffing spells on Typhon. Typhon can use various powerful attacks, including Snort, which deals massive wind elemental damage to the party, inflicting wound damage that lowers their maximum HP and removing their status buffs. Typhon may lose the motivation to fight, causing him to stop attacking and gaining several debuffs. Ultros will devote his attention to trying to motivate Typhon again, which will gradually cause Typhon to lose his debuffs and recover some HP before he goes on the offensive again. The player can stall this by staggering Ultros, preventing him from motivating Typhon until he recovers. A perfect execution of the final QuickTime attack ensures Ultros will be dropped to recruit into the Paradigm Pack, but Typhon is a random drop. Ultros is a synergist who is initially only able to cast Protect and Shell, but this can be a benefit since the player can customize him with exactly the spells they want to use. His feral link is Octopus Ink, which deals magic damage to all enemies and inflicts Curse, Pain, and Slow. Typhon is a commando who learns Auto and Arrow and Auto and Fire, and a passive ability to boost his power when striking an enemy's elemental weakness. He also has unusually high magic for a commando. His feral link is Snort, which deals magic damage to a target and nearby enemies, and inflicts Dispel, Daze, and Wound. Ultros appears in Final Fantasy XIV using a modified version of his 13-2 model. While Typhon also appears, he has an entirely new model. The two were added in patch 2.4 as part of a questline involving Inspector Hildebrand's pursuit of a mysterious thief. The adventurer is asked to investigate a tournament being held at the Colosseum, believing the thief will enter to try to steal the prize. Ultros works at the Colosseum and is explained to be an experiment that was conjured by the Thaumaturges Guild, and they spared his life rather than dispose of him. It becomes apparent Ultros is trying to rig the tournament by aiding a warrior named Avila in exchange for part of her winnings. Ultros uses his work around the Colosseum as pretense to arrange for threats to Avila to be injured and withdrawn from the brackets, while Avila advances easily due to her Tempest Blade that conjures a great windstorm against her opponents. Hildebrand tricks Ultros into revealing the truth by replacing some golden truffles he's been purchasing with roasted ones. The Tempest Blade's power was actually the sneezes of Typhon, whom Ultros had befriended and was using the truffles to induce him to sneeze and wipe out Avila's opponents. His scheme exposed, Ultros convinces the organizers to let him and Typhon engage the adventurer for the finale of the Mythal Cup. As an allusion to their original appearance, Ultros and Typhon are fought in The Dragon's Neck. Ultros' attacks are mostly based on his Opera Battle. He can use Aqua Breath, Megavolt, and Imp Song, and can summon 4-ton weights to fall and stun players. When low on HP, he summons giant tentacles around the arena that strike over a large area, damaging players and knocking them back. Typhon has several variants of Snort that can knock players back, including a move where he floats to the center of the arena and turns in place while blasting wind from both of his mouths. Getting knocked back by their attacks is a serious risk. The arena has a drop-off around the edges, and if a player is knocked out of bounds, they are temporarily stunned and considered out of the battle until they recover and re-enter. Should all party members get knocked out of bounds, the battle is considered lost. The two also have some new tricks up their sleeves to be wary of. Whenever the difference in their HP grows high enough, they will use a move that balances out the difference, effectively meaning they share one extra large health bar. When Ultros turns party members into imps, they must allow themselves to get hit with Aqua Breath, giving them a stacking status called Wet Plate, an allusion to the imp equipment in Final Fantasy VI absorbing water elemental damage. If Typhon floats to the center of the arena and begins glowing, it signals he is about to use Severe Snort, which will instantly knock all players out of the arena. The only way to stop this is for the imped party members to attack him. His Invigorate status will be lowered for each stack of Wet Plate the imps have, and Severe Snort will be halted when Invigorate is removed. With the tournament over, the thief appears to steal the prize, and Gilgamesh also appears to dispel rumors he was the thief and confront Hildebrand over suspecting him. In the confrontation, a truffle causes Typhon to sneeze, blowing Ultros and Gilgamesh away. Final Fantasy XIV marks the first time Gilgamesh and Ultros have interacted. Aside from this scene, they briefly speak to each other over their mutual dislike of Hildebrand. Ultros and Typhon return in the Masked Carnival, a questline exclusive to Blue Mages. Stage 20 pits players against Typhon, then Ultros, and then both of them. The two can use Snort and Aqua Breath for Blue Mages to learn. Typhon will use Snort to knock back and stun players before bombarding them with fireballs, and Ultros can summon additional water spouts when using Aqua Breath. As an additional complication when fighting them, the outer parts of the arena are electrified, damaging the player if they are knocked into the field. The fight also has an achievement to be earned by defeating the duo without dispatching any of the tentacles Ultros summons. The achievement is named Octopath Traveler, a pun on another Square Enix title that came out around the same time as the Masked Carnival was added. Ultros could also be fought as a Fate boss during the 2017 Moonfire Fair. As the fairgoers enjoy the surf and sand, Ultros can be found ogling the various women on the beach. The adventurer fights Ultros to fend him off before he disrupts the festival, but he pleads for mercy and insists he just wanted to enjoy the fair like the rest, and promises to behave himself. He spends the time after on the beach not causing trouble, taking in the sights of the fair. Typhon finds new employment at the Mandeville Gold Saucer. A gate event allows players to get on stage with him and try to avoid being blown off by his various snorts and sneezes in order to win points to spend in the Gold Saucer. Typhon can be acquired as a mount to ride by purchasing him from the Gold Saucer for 750,000 points. A wind-up Ultros is available as a minion, based on his field sprite in Final Fantasy VI. If the player's character is a male, using the slap or poke emotes on the Ultros minion make it run away, but if the character is a female, he'll wiggle in place. Ultros makes another sprite-based cameo in the Sigmascape. The Guardian from Final Fantasy VI will run various battle programs as it did in that game, including Ultros. It will summon Ultros to aid it in battle, and it can use his tentacle and ink attacks. Ultros appears in the world of Final Fantasy XV in the tie-in film Kingsglaive. He is a gigantic demon that is unleashed by Niflheim to kill the glaives that try to rescue Lunafreya, and is killed when he falls off the airship Nyx and Lunafreya are on and is impaled on a skyscraper spire. Ultros also appeared in a special fan appreciation video where he is dispatched by Yamachang, a restaurant owner in Insomnia, to protect the cartoon character Lil Malbuddy. Ultros is also the main antagonist in the tie-in game A King's Tale, a side-scrolling game with a framing device of King Regis telling a young Noctis about his adventures in his youth. Ultros stole Insomnia's crystal, upset that the Astrals had no regard for him even though he considered himself a king, and Regis and his comrades fought him to reclaim it. Though Noctis is skeptical of the idea of a talking octopus stealing the crystal, Sid and Wesker recount the tale in the Comrades multiplayer expansion, implying Regis was telling the truth. Typhon does not appear in person in Final Fantasy XV, but a fishing lure is designed after it, Big Master Typhon. It can be purchased in the Arena Galviano in Alticia, an allusion to the Colosseum of Final Fantasy VI, and is notably the only lure that can attack the pink jade gar, a rare and challenging fish to catch at the Darwell Spring. Ultros and Typhon appear sporadically in other titles. They both appeared in Final Fantasy Tactics S as bosses and recruitable characters, and also appeared in Dimensions 2 as summons. Both appear in Theatrhythm and Brave Exvius as bosses, and Ultros' card in Theatrhythm pokes fun at his name being inconsistently localized as either Ultros or Orthros. The two appear in Dissidia as tutors for the in-game manuals alongside Realm, and can be used as summons. Ultros uses octopus ink to make it more difficult to see the bravery of the characters, and Typhon uses snort to blow away a random digit of the opponent's bravery. Typhon was intended to appear in Final Fantasy Type 0 as a summon, and a render of it exists in the game files. Unusually, it is mostly white with its secondary face being black and it has blue markings on its body, but it is possible this is just because the model and textures were unfinished. In Final Fantasy Record Keeper, Ultros is inconsistently called Ultros or Orthros, even in Final Fantasy VI events. He was a special event boss in the game's 2018 New Year's Festival, where he was fought in a recreation of the opera battle. While he is an easy opponent, when defeated he calls in backup, Cagnazzo, the other optional boss of the festival, who is much more dangerous. Ultros is also a summon ability that was voted on by players to be added to the game. He uses Tentacle, a non-elemental attack that hits 8 times and can inflict blind. Typhon is one of the rank 5 Magicite bosses, and can use Snort to remove characters from the battle, as well as having various wind attacks. In the game's 6th year, Ultros was added as a rank 6 Poison Magicite, using Octopus Ink as his special attack. The two also adorned stamps in the game's now defunct multiplayer mode. Ultros and Typhon appear in Moebius Final Fantasy using the 13-2 models. In this game, Typhon develops a mutual respect for the Warrior of Light, and the warrior is able to understand him. Typhon's roars are given subtitles to demonstrate this, also showing he is not as stupid as Ultros usually presents him. While they part on good terms, Echo, the warrior's fairy companion, is insistent that Ultros praise her looks after he previously insulted her for her age. Ultros appears as a boss in Chocobo's Dungeon 2, where his tentacles are separate targets with their own ATB gauges. In Final Fantasy Unlimited, Typhon appears as a summon using the Soil Charge Triad Sky Blue, Earth Brown, and Magic Violet. It is a diminutive creature that creates a force field around the opponent that slowly collapses and crushes them. In World of Final Fantasy, Ultros appears alone when Terra investigates a monster causing trouble. Ultros tricks her into believing he can lead her to the monster's lair, really a pretense to lure her somewhere private so they can have fun together. Terra realizes he's been lying and Ultros is dispatched by Lan and Rain. Later, Ultros gets the drop on Cloud and Celes as they plan to put on an opera to lift the spirits of the townsfolk. Ultros declares he wants to turn the library into a retirement cottage and must be chased off again. However, the book for the opera is covered in Ultros' ink, forcing the show to be cancelled. In Kingdom Hearts 1, Typhoon is one of many gummy ship blueprints named for Final Fantasy creatures, but it doesn't particularly resemble its namesake. In Kingdom Hearts 3, Ultros makes an appearance as a constellation that can be photographed while flying the gummy ship, and doing so unlocks a gummy ship blueprint based on him. Thank you to everyone for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more lore Final Fantasy in the future, and stop by the community tab on my channel to vote on the next subject.